Welcome to Rauta's double or dual review. This time it's all about rock, but this band has its roots in metal as well. So let's welcome Lucifer of International Waters. Originally started quite a few years ago, Lucifer has now reached to album 4. This one. But because of the number 3 already came out in 2020 but missed its review window back in the days, I decided to feature both of these babies in one review. There's actually really good reason to that. These could be siblings like part 2 and 3 or part 1 and 2. The style is very consistent and similar, so it doesn't really matter. But yes, this is a band that has been here for quite a few years and established themselves rather strongly. Originally being more like a German, British project, but due to some lineup changes it became soon kind of a Swedish / German project and later on just Swedish. The thing here is Johanna Sadonis, the front of the band, also the beautiful vocalist of the band, just happens to be married to this drummer, so I guess that explains the rather Swedish take nowadays. And the drummer, nobody else but Nicke Andersson of Entombed, Helicopters and so forth. But this is not Nicke's band as much as it Johanna's band, which was then again founded after The Oath split up. And this one is very much driven with Johanna's style, I guess. And it seems like this band has gotten towards more and more occult, retro-ish rock and roll music rather than away from its metal roots. But this is not about album 2 or album number 2, but 3 and 4. I'll quickly unbox these while I guide you through these albums and try to explain what's going on. This is also a pilot run for the music running on the background, and let's hope that I don't get too many copyright violation accusations and all that stuff, because people have been really hoping for me to feature some of the music when I do these reviews and unboxing ones. So here you have album number 3, and this all the way from the cover and image and graphic style is very much going back to the 1970s and all that stuff. And then again, it really fits the thing here. I mean, this is not modern rock and roll music, but going back to old school ways. I wouldn't say as far as roots, because obviously rock and roll goes way beyond the 1970s, but when we are considering metal music to be included, which kinda shines through Lucifer's music, yes, we could say 1970s definitely is the root part or phase of metal music. But if we go beyond occult rock and all that stuff, well, like said, we could go beyond 70s to talk about old school rock music. Be it the Beatles, be it even blues music and all that stuff. So Lucifer is tapping to the very wane of decades past, and I think they are doing that quite nicely. As I was listening to Entombed discography prior to this one, I can't help but do a little bit of comparison between these two, because, well, Nicke Andersson is obviously part of the both bands, even though his role is, anyway, officially being the drummer of the band. Now the thing here is, whereas Entombed later on became this kind of a death and roll band, so wanted to include rock and rollish riffs, and of course with Helicopters, it's kind of clear that Nicke Andersson has this passion for kind of classic and old school rock. It's clear that Lucifer is on a very different level than Entombed's rather lukewarm, even mediocre rock and roll songs, which again is not exactly death metal with death and roll, but not exactly proper rock and roll. And that's where Lucifer kind of comes in and says, hey, let me handle this. We get the good vocalist. Sorry, LG Petro, may you rest in peace, but you were never a good rock and roll vocalist. Whereas Johanna Sadonis is just excellent. Also, the riffs, the warm, kind of a fuzzy sound, it's just perfectly fitting the music here. Now, to start with Lucifer number 3. This is some 40 minutes of that old school, fuzzy sounding, warm, occult rock kind of a thing. Even the lyrics are kind of like, hey, I'm going back in time, because it's about, you know, Lucifer himself, the Lightbringer, flirting with the devil, talking about topics such as death or, you know, disco in fever gives me the kind of a vampiric idea you're in a coffin, or maybe it's more about the voodoo, you know. Definitely flirting with kind of a horror movie stuff, or literature for that matter. Definitely having this kind of a gothic vibes about, you know, cemeteries and all that stuff. And Mrs. Sadonis just does wonderful work with her very versatile use of vocals. There are higher parts and more, you know, kind of lower parts, but it's all clean and nice way to execute the vocals. When it comes to songwriting, it's very much like carved from one and the same rock. Once you have heard a song or two, you pretty much know what to expect. There is not too much diversity, and to my disappointment, there are no clear hit songs. Like, everything is very, very listenable and to a certain degree enjoyable. But once you go beyond a couple of spins, there's nothing really to offer. This is not an album that has, you know, those kind of nostalgic, historical classic hits, which we all know when we go into the past looking for songs. You know, I guess I don't really need to give you examples. We all know that where things like Heavy Metal Thunder come, you know, like Steppenwolf and all that stuff. But yeah, this is kind of easy to get into, but beyond that, I don't know if this does the trick. Then again, Ghost has been very successful, and that has been very, very openly kind of exploited the decades past. So in a way, I don't see why not Lucifer couldn't do the same thing. But yeah, Lucifer number 3 is very easy to approach and to a certain degree easy to enjoy. What about Lucifer number 4? Basically that is roughly the same, but with 45 minutes, 11 tracks. Now the thing here is, especially in video game industry, and to a certain degree also in movie industry, when there is a sequel to things and you don't change things enough, people start bitching, yeah, this is like recycling old ideas and just doing a cosmetic changes, and that's pretty much of it. Like, you are kind of bound to expect something more. Things to change, things to evolve. But you cannot change too much or it's a very different thing. If you don't change at all, you just get accused of being repetitive and recycling your ideas. Unfortunately, that is exactly what's happening with Lucifer 4. Now, I'm not gonna say this is worse than the album number 3. It's basically very same level. The very same, or at least similar production. Once again, solid vocals, you know, nice drums, guitars and all that stuff, and the kind of a fuzzy, warm sound. So there's not that much difference. And mind you, I really listened to this back to back to get the idea like how things have changed. And to my disappointment, not really. I wouldn't mind if the album number 3 would have been like some 9 out of 10, like, wow, this is the best rock I've heard in ages. But it's not. Once again, lacking the hit songs. And the very same thing here is with Lucifer 4. So I would say this is the kind of an apex point in the terms of like how much you can really recycle and do similar ideas without getting too boring, too repetitive and all. Now, people who like the previous work are kind of guaranteed to like number 4, but at the same time I would use this video game and movie sequel comparison. Like, if you get too much the same thing and things don't really change, you are getting, or might be getting the ideas that, hey, we need you to change, we need you to progress and evolve, do something else. You just can't have 10 to 12 tracks of an album every couple of years and get away with it if you don't have something else to offer. So once again, in terms of originality and ideas, none of these are really original. But for me, for example, the 3 is more like, yeah, this is pretty nice, because it is my first album I really got to review with Lucifer. So properly listen, write notes, blah blah blah, get into the details. With number 4, especially when I'm listening back to back, not like after 2 years of break or whatever, it feels like, yeah, these are like the leftover songs from number 3. Not necessarily worse, in fact the very same level. But there is no progress at all. So it seems like over the years how Lucifer has kind of paced up with the release schedule. I mean, first album came in 2015, and 3 years later, Lucifer 2. Now only 2 years later came Lucifer 3, and 1 year later, Lucifer 4. You get the idea, it's pacing up, and you can't help but feel maybe there was not enough time to get these songs to kind of evolve and change direction and, you know, whatever. So is the next album coming in, I don't know, 9 months, 6 months? Is it just gonna be, you know, doing a Beatles, like 2 albums a year and just all that stuff? Now obviously COVID might have changed or the pace and all that stuff, but still can't help that this feels a little bit rushed versus the album number 3. Then again, like I said, if you like either of the albums, you're kind of bound to like both albums. And what you should be hearing on the background, unless I'm talking too loud, is in fact the album number 4. So you get the vague idea what this music is all about. Now, should you want to listen to it more and do it more properly, go for your favorite streaming services to get some samples. Or if you're old school physical fanatic like me and you want your music to be in a physical format, well, there's no reason why not to skip these CDs or go for the LP version in case you like physical format. That's what I always suggest, because it comes with the art, it comes with lyrics, it comes with feeling you don't really necessarily have on streaming service format. Now, this is Rauta's Non-Metal Sunday. I hope you will get something beyond metal music, and Lucifer is quite good reason to check it out. So, take care and enjoy some rock and roll.